You're probably familiar with the true story of the Titanic, but what do you really know about the iconic ship and its perilous voyage? Today, we're taking a look at 50 interesting facts about the RMS Titanic. Number 50. The RMS Titanic was the largest movable man-made object of the early 20th century. At over 882 feet long, 92 feet wide, and 175 feet high, this massive ship could still cruise at 23 knots, making her fast for her size. Number 49. There were 840 cabins for passengers, and the cargo holds could carry up to 900 tons worth of freight and baggage. Number 48. There were 10 decks total, divided into different classes for the luxury passengers, economy passengers, and crew. Number 47. The Titanic was definitely not eco-friendly, dumping nearly 100 tons of ash into the sea each day. Number 46. 4 giant funnels reaching up 81 feet above the deck ensured passengers weren't covered in the soot she constantly spewed. Number 45. The 4th funnel was initially added for aesthetic reasons, to make the ship look powerful and majestic. Then later on in development, it was used for ventilation to the engine rooms. Number 44. The Titanic was powered by 29 triple-furnace coal-fired boilers burning 600 tons of coal per day. With a storage capacity of 6,611 tons, it was just enough to get a round trip to New York and back. Number 43. 2 gigantic engines powered 3 massive propellers. 2 were at her rear and weighed 38 tons combined, and 1 was at her center and weighed 22 tons on its own. Number 42. The Titanic was originally the SS Titanic. SS stands for screw steamer or steamship. She only became the RMS Titanic after carrying British Royal Mail and becoming the Royal Mail steamer Titanic. Number 41. 2 anchors, each weighing roughly 15 tons, were used to hold the mighty ship in place when docked, and it took 20 horses to transport a single anchor during her construction. Number 40. In 1955, Walter Lord published A Night to Remember, a non-fiction account of the Titanic tragedy, which was soon released as a movie in 1958. The story regenerated public interest in the sinking after waning substantially over the years, and it's likely the only reason we still talk about the Titanic today. Number 39. The Titanic surprisingly only took 2 years to construct, but cost over $6 million, which would equate to $166 million in today's economy. Interesting side fact, it cost nearly $200 million to make the 1997 movie Titanic starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Number 38. A 228-foot tall gantry was built over the Titanic to construct her, the largest ever built at the time, from which up to 15,000 men would work during her construction. Number 37. 3 million rivets were used to join together the pieces of the hull. However, unlike many other ships built at the time, in order to cut costs, the Titanic's rivets were a mix of iron and steel. Even weaker iron rivets were used on the bow of the ship, which would be the section that later struck the iceberg. Number 36. 8 construction workers were killed during the construction of the Titanic, and 246 were injured. An unwritten expectation from shipbuilders at the time was 1 death per million pounds spent, which would put her death total of 8 well under budget and was considered a great success. Number 35. The Titanic carried 75,000 pounds of fresh meat, 40,000 eggs, 6,000 pounds of butter, 15,000 bottles of beer, 1,000 bottles of wine, 850 bottles of liquor, and 8,000 cigars. Number 34. Her crew and passengers drank 14,000 gallons of water a day. Number 33. For her last dinner on the night of April 14th, 1912, passengers in first class enjoyed oysters, salmon, filet mignon, lamb, roast duckling, eclairs, and French ice cream. Passengers in third class had the option of gruel, cabin biscuits, or cheese. Number 32. The Titanic was capable of carrying 64 lifeboats, well over her maximum capacity of 3,547 people, yet was only planned to carry 48. That number was eventually reduced to just 20 for cosmetic reasons, as it made the decks look less cluttered. Number 31. Despite being far too few for the total number of passengers, the Titanic's 20 lifeboats was technically legal, as law at the time was based on the gross registered tonnage of the ship, not her passenger capacity. Number 30. The Titanic carried 2 wooden cutters with a capacity of 40 people each, 14 30-foot wooden lifeboats with a capacity of 65 each, and 4 collapsible lifeboats with a capacity of 47 each. This meant that only 33% of the Titanic's passengers and crew. Number 29. Because it took 2.5 hours for the Titanic to sink, had there been enough lifeboats, every single person aboard could have been saved. Number 28. Of the 20 lifeboats aboard, only 18 were successfully launched. 2 collapsible lifeboats simply floated away. Number 27. Only 9 people were rescued from the water after the lifeboats launched, 3 of which died shortly after to hypothermia. Number 26. 30 people managed to survive by sitting, standing, or kneeling atop the upturned hull of a collapsible lifeboat B after they failed to right it. Number 25. The Titanic had 3,500 life jackets aboard, but the water was so cold that they would have been useless as people simply froze to death within minutes of entering the frigid water. Number 24. Despite having a capacity of 65, the first lifeboat launched with just 28 people. This was due to people being reluctant to leave the ship as they did not consider themselves to be in imminent danger. Number 23. A total of 472 seats aboard the lifeboats went unused. Number 22. Another lifeboat with a capacity of 65 carried only 12 people, 5 first-class passengers and 7 crew members. The press nicknamed it the Millionaire's Boat and accused the occupants of ignoring the cries for help from people in the water. Number 21. Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon, a member of the Millionaire's Boat, paid each of the 7 crew members in his lifeboat £5 each, an equivalent of $510 in today's money. He was later heavily criticized for paying the men, but claimed that he was simply compensating them for the loss of their belongings. Number 20. Jack B. Thayer, a Titanic survivor, said of the Millionaire's Boat, "The partly filled lifeboat standing about 100 yards away never came back. Why on earth they never came back is a mystery. How could any human being fail to heed those cries?" Number 19. One lifeboat returned to try and save the others after launching, despite fears of being overwhelmed by desperate victims or being dragged under by downward suction caused by the Titanic's sinking. Number 18. Lifeboats floated for 1 hour and 10 minutes in open water before the rescue ship Carpathia arrived on scene. Luckily, the seas were relatively gentle. Had they been rough, it's likely all would have perished. Number 17. The Carpathia secured 13 of the Titanic's lifeboats, but left 7 to float adrift. Days later, the Canadian ship Mackay Bennett tried to bring one aboard, but failed. There's a chance at least one of the Titanic's lifeboats could still be bobbing around somewhere in the Atlantic. Number 16. Souvenir hunters removed the plates from the lifeboats containing the name Titanic, as well as the lifeboat numbers. Able seaman Tom Jones pried off the number 8 from Lifeboat 8 and sent it to Lucy Noel Martha, the Countess of Rhodes. Number 15. It's thought the rest of the surviving lifeboats were put into use on the Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic. Number 14. 6 life jackets from the Titanic remain in existence in museums or private collections to this day. Number 13. On the 25th of June 2008, one blood-stained life jacket was sold in an auction in New York for over £34,000. Number 12. Prior to the Titanic's sinking, American author Morgan Robertson wrote the novel Futility, in which an ocean liner named the Titan strikes an iceberg on her maiden voyage. What a coincidence. Number 11. Before her collision, the Titanic received 6 ice warnings from passing ships. Number 10. Despite fog and unsafe waters, the Titanic steamed along at 22.5 knots, just 0.5 knots below her top speed. From the moment lookout Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg dead ahead, it took only 30 seconds for the ship to crash into it. Number 9. 4 forward compartments could have flooded without the Titanic sinking, but 6 were ruptured in the collision. The iron rivets used in her construction have been heavily blamed for the sinking. Number 8. The iceberg didn't just poke a little hole, it caused a 220 to 245 foot long gash under the waterline. Number 7. With flooding at a rate of 400 tons per minute, it took the Titanic only 160 minutes to sink. Number 6. Approximately 38 tons of water filled the bow of the Titanic, causing the ship's stern to lift up out of the water and split in half just in front of the third funnel. Number 5. After becoming submerged, it took the 2 sections of the Titanic between 5 and 10 minutes to reach the seafloor. Number 4. The water temperature at the time was only 28 degrees, 4 degrees below freezing. The Titanic's second officer, Charles Lightoller, described hitting the water as 1,000 knives being driven into one's body. Number 3. Taken by the liner Prince Adalbert just a few miles south of the Titanic sinking, is suspected to be of the iceberg responsible. Number 2. The Titanic iceberg was thought to have originally been 1 mile long when it initially broke off the coast of Greenland, but was estimated to be only 200 to 400 feet at the time of the sinking. Number 1. Approximately 300 icebergs reached the North Atlantic shipping lanes in April 1912, the highest number for over 50 years. The Titanic's captain, Edward Smith, was quoted as saying, "I cannot imagine any condition which would cause a ship to founder. I cannot conceive of any vital disaster happening to this vessel. Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that." Had the Titanic not cut corners by using weaker rivets, it's well possible that the good captain may have been proven right. What other facts about the Titanic do you know? Were her designers really just tempting fate by claiming her to be unsinkable? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like,